ethic of everybody only caring about their shit, I think the danger is we run into more war than the planet can handle. But war's been going on. The thing is, if anything has saved us, it's the fact that we found ways of engaging in invisible war and covert war, and we've integrated war into the economic system. And as Orwellian and bizarre as it is, it's probably better than nuclear war.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. We're going to take a real quick break here. You're listening to TMRN, Time Monk Radio Network. We're speaking with Catherine Austin Fitts of the Solari Report, which goes behind the headlines to reveal what's really happening in the global financial system. Please visit her website at www.solari.com. Now we're going to throw over to Green Meadow for the next question. Green Meadow?
Hi there. I work with home health in the over 65 population, and they have had great faith in their country in the past, but they're starting to feel like they have been betrayed. And they're not sure how they've been betrayed, but they're starting to get angry. They're also very scared and dependent of their government. There seem to be active efforts on the parts of the powers that be to reduce their life expectancy. How do you see this group being a player in the coming times as they wake up?
Now, is the group you're talking about physically active, or are they?
Since I'm working in home health, most of them are not, but I do also know active over 65s.
Okay. I used to have a pastor who used to say, if we can face it, God can fix it. And I think there's a lot that the over 65 can do, because what's interesting is the over 65 remember when the world was a relatively safe place for them within a community or a neighborhood. I mean, they can remember a much more civilized way to do things. They're often very experienced and knowledgeable. They have a lot of practical wisdom. And they also, some of them have some savings and assets. And if you look at things on a community-by-community basis, where you have the over 65s kind of team up with the middle generation and the younger generation, and it often happens through families. So you'll see the 65-plus and the middle generation get together and help the youngsters start businesses or come into businesses. Where you get this sort of aligning between the generations, and them use their assets and their knowledge to help each other succeed, something very, very positive can happen. And the other thing is, I'm a great believer on the power of meditation and prayer. And if you look at people who are over 65 and literally cannot be very active or get out of, they're dealing in home care situations, what's interesting is they can always pray. They can always meditate. They can always do something that will have a dramatic impact in helping to kind of cleanse and shift the field in the psychic storm. So I think there's a tremendous amount they can do. And one of the things we have to do is make sure that the generations don't get alienated from each other, because when that happens, you really give Mr. Global a chance to control. So the other thing I found with people in a home care situation is you want them to be able to feel good about doing what they can do. And that's why I keep coming back to prayer and meditation, or things that they can do just in their building or in their home. And you want them to feel good about what they can do, because, in fact, if you look at the real solutions, if everybody's just doing what they can do in their piece, it's quite remarkable what can happen. The other thing is, anything they can do to protect themselves financially is important. And, and step one, I hate to say it, and this is very tough in home care, is to turn off their TV, because they're consuming a huge amount of subliminal programming and entrainment and sort of disinformation that makes it even more difficult. And I find in many circumstances TV makes people much angrier. So if they can find ways of being entertained without being dependent on the TV, it would be fantastic.
Yeah, I have definitely seen them becoming more angry with what's going on TV. So that does seem very true. Well, thank you.
Catherine, this is Plain. Now we're talking about technology a bit. So do you see any new energy technologies, such as the new electrics of the web bots, coming onto the scene soon? And have you looked into Andrea Rossi's ECAT, for example?
I haven't. And it's funny, I was just meeting with a group of scientists who are very up on the latest energy technology. And last year I was in a wonderful conference in Switzerland that had energy technologists from around the world. And what they were showing and telling us about was quite dazzling. There's no doubt that there's tremendous pressure to bring this stuff online now. And one of the things I watch all the time, because something that, if there's anything that will have a dramatic impact on the pricings in the financial and precious metals market, it's the introduction of this kind of technology. It can sort of change everything and change all the prices and all the relative values in very dramatic ways. So I watched a lot, and there are many indications that would tell me they're looking to flip the model, but I still think it's a little too early to tell. And certainly it's getting harder and harder to control this stuff, and more people are just realizing, that there's a lot that can happen. So I think I would say, probably, but I still think we don't know. But I will tell you, as an investment advisor, there's nothing more important to track than this. So we'll see.
Well, it certainly looks like the ECAT is getting some big name, big money support. And they're intimating that they might be willing to just focus on large institutions and kind of, make it for power generation and things like that, and then not allow us to have it in our house. So that's one possibility.
Well, right. One of the things I'm concerned about is whether the smart grids are designed to, basically keep them charging us a lot for energy while they implement this technology, but it's flowing through the old footprint. So I don't know, but I commend your effort to figure it out, because I would love to be able to figure out what's going on. But I don't see, I'm looking through the glass darkly, and I don't see a clear picture emerging yet.
Well, a related technological question is, what do you think of the open fabrication movement as represented by Neil Gershenfeld at MIT? This would seem to lead to an almost unstoppable decentralization.
I hope it works.
It's pretty far along, actually, around the world. Little girls in Africa making computer chips and things. And a cheap version of it only costs about $20,000 to make anything.
Yeah, I think what's going to explode on the scene from new technology is quite exciting, and different processes of managing it. I don't know if you just saw the latest. There's a video that went around last month about a Xerox machine that can make a tool. So you put a tool in one side, and using plastic composites, it just makes a duplicate of the tool on the other side. So you can literally Xerox a wrench.
Well, that's amazing. An example of what I'm talking about. It's really quite far along now.
Yes. So, and I think the question is, how do you integrate this kind of stuff in a way that preserves general well-being? How do you do that? Because it's possible to do it in a way that just, puts millions of people out of work, and they sink into poverty. So, one of probably the most depressing book I've ever read in the last decade was Kurzweil's The Singularity is Near, because he basically says, okay, the machines are going to be in charge. They're going to run everything. the humans are literally going to lose control of the machines.
Well, he's a representative of that school of thought, but fortunately, a lot of folks are, pretty strongly opposed. And when you see in the real world where some of this stuff is being used today as we speak in poor countries, it's quite liberating for the masses. It's not corporate. It's not corporate.
Right. Well, I think there's a lot of great stuff going on, particularly in the emerging markets, because, the poverty that we've seen around rebalancing the economy, there's a lot to be said for doing that. When you have the first world sitting in luxury and everybody else literally living on the edge in real poverty, that's not such a pretty scene. So the idea of rebalancing has a lot of attractions. So there's a lot of good stuff going on. I don't want to underestimate that.
By the way, are there any technologies that you personally have either worked with or you're familiar with that you see as really offering some good potential for the future for Mrs. Local?
I hate to sound like this, but I keep coming back to prayer, because the technology that we most need, what a great currency does, a great currency facilitates honest and clear communication, so that 6 billion people can make choices. I can decide to buy this pair because 6 billion people minus one give me a clear indication of value in the price expressed to me in a currency. So a currency is a great communication tool. And I think that one of the challenges we have is with all the manipulation of the financial system and using the financial system as a battleground, is we've lost our ability to communicate with each other. And I think that prayer and meditation is one of the best ways I know, other than a great currency and a great financial system, to communicate with each other and to sort of reach a consensus. And I've been very interested in the examples I've seen of where communities practice community meditation or prayer and some of the results that they've gotten. One of the things that most concerns me about the cellular technology and some of the other wireless technology is I think that we're swarm animals and we resonate with each other, and I think it interferes and manipulates and prevents some of that resonation is my concern. And so anything that helps us improve that communication without the sort of the powers that be getting in the middle of it. In theory, I would love social media and all sorts of cell texting. If you look at how it's being used, though, I think it's fairly. If you look at the backdrop, there's something quite evil behind it. So, the technology that I have the most enthusiasm right now for is an ancient one, and that's the power of really developing our mental and spiritual capacity in a way that really serves to build up our power and intelligence. And that's one of the reasons that I so enjoy Cliff's work, because I think he's trying to help facilitate that. He's trying to help us, because the media is so distorted and so many of the communication tools are so distorted. One of the reasons I find his work so valuable is it gives me an insight into the sort of psychic storm that can help me make sure that what I resonate with is making sense.
Well, that's a really good thing. That's the way to look at it. Maybe it's like the 100th monkey for meditation or something.
Right.
How we can put it all out. I even know somebody studying Sanskrit to try to learn more about
really?
Ancient cities that they wrote about. Yeah, the cities.